What is up, everybody? So in this video, I want to talk about being socially attractive and likable. And I want to talk about it because I think it is a very important skill to have in 2023. It's becoming less and less common as we move more towards a technology-centered world. You know, everyone's kind of consumed with social media and being online and communicating via text messages and things like that, that people are just getting kind of awkward and antisocial. And I think it's so important to have social skills for a variety of different reasons. One, when it comes to dating and relationships, at some point you're gonna need to go out on dates and you're gonna need to be able to relate to someone in person and have the social skills to do so. When it comes to your career or business, being likable and being somebody that other people want to work with is huge when it comes to whether or not they work with you or whether or not you get considered for that next promotion or raise. Also, just having a social circle and friends to hang out with and kind of unplug from your normal other day duties in life, I think is also a very healthy thing to have. So having social skills in 2023 is becoming less common. So if you're able to have these skills, it's gonna make you more and more valuable. And one side note I wanna make is that just because you may be introverted or you lean more towards being introverted doesn't mean that you can't be outgoing and social still. Like anything, having social attractiveness or being likable or relatable are skills. It's a culmination of a few different skills that you can develop over time. And I consider myself more introverted than I do extroverted, but I still have no problems, going out and meeting people or talking to new people or just being, outgoing and likable. So it's something you can very well learn. It just takes some practice and a conscious effort in order to do so. So in this video, I want to talk about 4 of the tricks and tips that I've learned that have allowed me to become more socially attractive. The first point then is to act happy to see other people. And the absolute perfect example of this is think about a dog. Everybody loves dogs, or at least the majority of people love dogs. And the reason they love them is because dogs are always happy to see you. They come running up to you, they wag their tail, they lick, they jump. They're super excited to see you. And because of that, you are just automatically more drawn to also liking dogs. I think because we live in this technology-driven world, so much of our communication today is via text messages or through direct messages on social media or just through technology-based forms of communication, and we forget how important, body language or facial expression or tone of voice, all of these different factors are when it comes to how other people perceive you. I was reading up on this a little bit and I found online that it says communication is 55% nonverbal, 38% vocal, and 7% words only. And that just goes to show a lot of how we communicate or how we're perceived isn't necessarily the content of what we're saying, but it's how we're expressing ourselves as we say it. So if you see someone and you're greeting them, if you're happy and you're high energy and you have a smile and you're upbeat, they're going to perceive you very differently than if you do the opposite of all those things. Point number 2 then is to talk to people without a motive. It's amazing how antisocial everyone has become. Everybody is glued to their phones nowadays and just very dialed in and focused on themselves that we forget how meaningful it is just to have small talk conversations with coworkers or even strangers or just people in your day-to-day life. I really think this is a very powerful concept in both business and in dating. I make it a point when I go into the office at work to just say hi to people and ask them how their weekends were. And it doesn't have to be a big drawn out conversation, but just acknowledging someone and saying hi to them goes a long way with how they perceive you. Also, when it comes to dating and meeting people in real life, because we all know how controversial and draining and exhausting dating apps are, if you just get in the habit of, making small talk conversations with people, it makes it a lot easier to actually meet women in real life, because you're going into the conversations without an expectation. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why guys get this approach anxiety or get all weirded out and worried about going up and talking to women in public. It's because they have this like idea, or they have this motive to where they have to get a phone number, or they have to ask them out on a date, the first time they talk to them. So it puts all this pressure on the conversation right from the get-go. If instead we got into the habit of having these small talk conversations with people for the sole purpose of just being interested and wanting to talk to people, it takes a lot of the pressure off. And when it comes to meeting people in person, especially for dating, I think if you can, meet someone in person, or, make small talk with them the first time you talk to them, maybe next time you see them, their guard's gonna be down a little bit more, and it just opens the conversation or the opportunity for a deeper connection or a deeper conversation to be had in the future. And then maybe, who knows, maybe a date does come out of it or something more. Again though, this is one that requires practice and a conscious effort in order to do it. But I think if you do it, on a day-to-day basis, or at least try to make an effort to just be a little bit more outgoing, it does pay dividends in a lot of different areas of your life, because you never really know what opportunity is going to come from just talking to a stranger, or just talking to a coworker you would normally just ignore or not, look their way. Point number 3 then piggybacks really well off point number 2, and it is to remember people's names. In the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it says, "Remember that a man's name is to him the sweetest and most important sound in any language." And I totally agree with this. This is one of these weird kind of psychological hacks that when we're called by our first name, we just are more trusting of the person that's calling it or using it, right? You just feel like a deeper connection to them, and it's hard to explain why, but we just do. I remember my first full-time job out of college in the corporate world, and I was in the office one day, a couple months into working there. I was the low guy on the totem pole, and you'd see random people throughout the office, but I remember a higher up, a guy that's been at the company for 20, 30 years, he acknowledged me by my first name. He said, "Hey Kevin, how you doing?" And we just had a little small talk conversation, but him calling me by my first name really stuck out to me. And I don't know why it was, but just him acknowledging me by my name showed me that he knew who I was, and he cared enough to know my name, even though I'm the low guy on the totem pole. And it just meant a lot to me. And I think this is the case for a lot of other people as well. I will say though, as a disclaimer, if you call someone by the wrong name or you pronounce their name wrong, it'll do twice as much damage. So if you're going to call someone by their first name, make sure you know how to pronounce it correctly and you're calling them the right name to begin with. Point number 4 then, to wrap it all up, is to include other people. And this one kind of stems from the whole universal law or principle that, what you give, you also receive. That what you put out into the world, it's gonna come back around and it's going to return back to you at some point. And if you can invite other people to things, whether it be social events or lunch or whatever it may be, there's a good chance that they're going to return the favor to you at a later point in life. And not only that, but when you're the one inviting someone else to an event or just to be included in something, it kind of puts you in an authority position, because you're essentially opening up the gates so they can join you. And it just makes you look better. It makes you more respectable. It makes you more likable, and people are gonna perceive you as an authority in the relationship as opposed to just any other person. A specific example of this is going back to high school. I'm not sure if it was my junior or senior year, but there was a new kid that moved into our school. And this was a small high school, maybe 500 kids in the whole school. But there's a new kid that moved in, joined the basketball team. He's in from out of state, so he doesn't know anybody, doesn't really have any friends. And I don't know why, but I kind of made it a point to bring him under my wing and just include him in my friend group. And I remember one Saturday, specifically, I invited him out to a party with me and my group of friends. And he didn't say this to me that night, but a few months later, he basically told me how much it meant to him that I invited him out and included him in our friend circle. And we ended up having a really good friendship, and he invited me to other events that allowed me to meet new people and experience new things, later on down the road. And it kind of just formed this good relationship to where we both respected each other and we both were inviting each other to different events that we otherwise would not have been invited to. And I think in a day and age where there's a lot of lonely people, in 2023, a lot of people are very lonely. I was reading online, it says that 36% of all Americans, including 61% of young adults and 51% of mothers with young children, feel serious loneliness. So there's a lot of loneliness in our society nowadays. And if you can help someone escape that or get out of that and introduce them to new people or to new experiences or to new social situations, they're going to remember that and they're likely going to think highly of you because of it and maybe even return the favor on down the road. So as a very quick recap, point number 1 is to act happy when you see people. Point number 2 is to talk to people without a motive. Point number 3 is to remember people's names. And point number 4 is to include other people. If you follow these 4 tricks and really get good at them, I'm convinced that anybody can have a good social circle, a good social status, and be a very likable person. It's just one of those things that takes practice and persistence and consistent conscious effort in order to do so. Whether or not you're introverted or extroverted, it really doesn't make a difference. It's a skill that can be learned. So I hope this video helps you guys. If it did, hit it with a thumbs up. If you agree or disagree or have any additional points you want to add, shoot them down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.